The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What is happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And the guy on the phone line has always been very classy to me. He's always had my back during rough times and hard times. His new CD, Reckless Operation, is out now. On the phone line, we have comedian Chad Zumock. What's up, dude?
Hello, Ryan. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Thank you for promoting my CD. That was very nice of you.
No problem, man, because as we all know, some things happened this year, and I sort of felt alone a little bit, but I've never been happier, and you're one of the people from Cleveland that I've kept in touch with, along with a few of my friends. So any way to help promote your CD, I'm your guy, dude.
Nah, it means a lot. You're a good guy. And the thing is, a lot of people don't understand is I knew you before you were even on Cleveland radio.
Yeah.
That station down there, because you've always been a big fan of radio, and so I've known about you for years, and you're always a real passionate kid, and anybody with passion and wanting to do something, any way I could help out, I'm on board.
How about that one time when I met you when I went out to an event in Cleveland? I think it was like a year and a half ago, and I met you in the back parking lot of that bar that you were doing a show at in Lakewood.
What's so funny is, there's a photo online. Somebody sent it to me, and I think you were you were in town, and that was funny. You got a photo with me. It's up there.
And then I also had you on my old sports show that I used to do, and you talked about LeBron James. So it's not like I'm just having you on just to promote your work. I've also known you for 4 years, so we do talk a lot, and you've always given me good advice, which I appreciate.
No, you're a young man, and you work hard, and you have passion. You know a lot about radio, and anybody that works that hard, you gotta take your hat off to. And you've always been good to me, so I appreciate it.
What's going on with this new work you have, Reckless Operation? What's it about?
My new album?
Yeah.
It's my comedy album. It's my stand-up comedy album that I just released, number 44 on iTunes right now on comedy. So I'm pretty happy with it. I actually took my time with it. I didn't, because there's a lot of comedians that just kind of rush and put stuff out. In this day and age, everyone thinks they're a comic, and then everyone thinks, they're doing something. So I really wanted to make it a representation of what I'm doing and what I've been doing the past 4 years. And, I recorded it live, one take, 50 minutes, and it's up there, and I'm happy with it. It's getting a lot of good feedback, and a lot of comedians that I respect are tweeting it out and telling people. So I've gotten a lot of support from the comedy community and especially people in the industry. So I'm very grateful.
What do you think is going on with comedy? There are a ton of good names out there. Like you think of the big names like Amy Schumer, Anthony Jeselnik, Jeff Ross. I mean, there's so many great comics. But wouldn't you agree now that there's that online platform of like YouTube or doing a podcast that everybody wants to be a comedian, and it's hard to pick out which are the good ones?
Well, it's like anything. It's radio, it's movies, it's entertainment, it's TV. The game's changing. I mean, network TV isn't the same from when we grew up. I mean, there's Netflix now, so everybody's binge watching things. Even with music and radio, they're listening to Apple Music or Pandora, Spotify. There's other ways to get your entertainment now. So radio's not the only game in town. Stand-up on the stage isn't the only game in town. So people are constantly evolving and changing. So it's good because you get a little bit more exposure. But even with bands, there's less of a filtering process. So there's a lot of good bands out there that nobody knows about.
Oh, I know.
Because back in the day, you knew about these bands because there was a filtering process. Without that process, you want to get a Guns N' Roses or a Beastie Boys or a Chili Peppers. And now there's bands out there that don't have that platform, and that's sad. But at the same time, if you do a little digging, if you know some people and you read some blogs, you could figure it out.
Now, what have you done since you are doing very well? You're the 40th most bought album on iTunes right now. You're ranked 40th. You're doing very well. You're getting shows, and you're often on the Bob and Tom show when you would fill in for Bob. So what do you do to make your name out there where there are so many comedians that don't work as hard? So what do you do to get your name out there?
Well, there was a time in my life, obviously, where I just kind of took a step back and I just kind of worked on some things in my life that were more important than anything in entertainment. And I kind of redefined a couple, relationships in my life and just situations. And then I had to kind of more or less kind of rediscover and redirect because, getting let go at my old station, it was a weird time. It was a weird way to process thoughts. There was so much going on that was hard to kind of direct. There was a lot of misdirected anger, and there's feelings, and you just kind of had to take a step back and let it process the right way. I once heard an interview with Conan O'Brien when he lost the Tonight Show about how it took him about 3 years to really figure out how to process thoughts and feelings, which was good because I kind of rediscovered stand-up again, which was always been the driving vehicle to take me places. That was always the one that set me where I was able to write for the roast, for the, Corey Taylor roast, the Dee Snider roast, the William Shatner roast, or some of my work on VH1. So I was able to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. So stand-up became a priority again, especially in this day and age with the state of radio. You just don't know where it's going. Like, I have a radio agent, and I get hit up about situations. I've been turned down for a few jobs, but I've also passed on a few jobs just because it wasn't the right fit. And as long as stand-up's strong, I think that will take me to wherever I want to go. And that's the only thing I'm concerned about right now.
Now, when you don't do comedy for, let's say, a year, is it hard to get back in the game where maybe you have a few bad shows? Or is it where once you're back in it and you're in front of everyone and the lights are on you, is that when you're in the zone? Like, how does that work for someone who maybe hasn't done comedy for, let's say, a year?
Well, I never took a year off. I was always doing it, but I just wasn't on the road. Like, when my biggest regret is when I was on the radio, I kind of gave up all my road work because I was really focused on making my old show good. And I was really into making a radio show good because that's just a bigger microphone and you reach a lot more places. So when I got fired, I had to start all over again and just kind of get back into it and figure out how to go about doing it. So yeah, I always kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I always try to compare it to the gym, working out. Like, if you stop going to the gym, you start working out, you start riding the treadmill, you kind of rebuild it. You got to get your cardio back. You got to get your strength back, conditioning. It's the same with stand-up. If you're not, at the club on the stage all the time, you're going to lose that muscle strength and that, that wind.
And what I see with the town of Cleveland is they're so loyal that they won't forget your name. I mean, my name is often brought up, and I haven't been in town for 9 months. And when I look at who listens to my podcast, Cleveland's the 4th city that listens to me. So I can imagine you being on a high-profile afternoon show. People aren't going to forget your name. So is that something that helps your work as well, being in a town that remembers you?
I think what helps is I'm from here.
Yeah.
And even before I was on the radio, I was doing things within town. I was, in a sketch group. I had a public access television show for a long time. So I've done things prior to the radio. Obviously, the radio gives you a bigger microphone and gives you better exposure. And, in Cleveland, radio they still embrace it, which is good. And I think I made somewhat of an impact in the 3 years I was at WMMS. And if anything, it's helped my shows. Like, more people come to my shows now because they're curious. They want to see what I'm up to. They miss me or whatever the case may be. But I think hopefully that was just a reflection of what I did over there. And as for you, the reason why, people still talk about you, I think, you were on a morning show and, I personally, I don't think you were treated the right way. I think, unfortunately, they treated you pretty badly, and that's my opinion. And it's sad. And but I also think you're a smart kid, and the fact that you're in Tampa in a bigger market on a better radio station with a better morning show, I think that's a testament of your character, and you continue to move forward, and you should be happy about that, and you shouldn't look back. But at the same time, even though you were on that station for a small amount of time, people do remember you, and the fact that you're actually, from what I understand, still brought up in content is hilarious, and that should just go to show you, man, that you're a better person and you're doing what you need to do. And I'm glad it never got you down or hurt what you're trying to do.
I will admit, for the first few months when I was here in Tampa, I let the past get to my head when you get tweets or text messages and you hear what's going on. But you have to realize, Chad, that at some point, dude, there's just so much time in a day, and you can't let that time you're given affect you by thinking about the negativity that may have gone on in your life. So I'm assuming you go through the same thing where you might get mad sometimes. You think about the past and you think about possible exploitation or teasing, but then you go, I'm alive right now. I can keep doing my thing and keep grinding to make it in this business, or I can sit at home playing Xbox and where I feel bad for myself. Do you know where I'm coming from? Where at some point you just kind of have to grow some balls and move on?
Yeah, I mean, it's, for me, mine was like a big smack in the head, and then you find out more information as it continues to process. And it took a while to kind of move on from, but I never really let that situation define me completely because I was always doing something, and I was always involved with some sort of creative endeavor. So it never really defined me. I always knew who I was. And with the public, the social media, I'm so callous to that. And obviously the negative tweets aren't there anymore because, from what I understand, it's all positive now because, for some reason or another, my old show just, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but whatever they're doing, they're making me more popular, which is awesome, and I appreciate it.
I know. I have the same thing going on. Thank you for the mentions. It helps me get listens. Thanks.
Yeah. So, it's silly. I mean, obviously, I have a problem with your old show's host, and he hasn't been very kind to me. And I guess the last time I did your podcast, he did a nice break on me, which is hilarious because it's just like, dude, come on. I mean, really? Like, how much of I don't even want to get into it because I don't give a shit about their show. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you could say whatever the hell you want, Chad.
So, yeah, the social media stuff, it's silly.
It's just hiding behind a keyboard or a microphone. I mean, what I love about it is I'm a very outspoken person, and so are you, Chad, which is why I've always looked up to you, is because you're very outspoken and you get right to the point. And what I don't respect is people who are fake. That's why I'm glad I work at 102.5 The Bone with real shows like Mike Kelta, Roger and JP, Drew Garabo. They're guys who are the same people on air and off the air. And I'm assuming the people that you work with in comedy are the same way. Nothing makes me more nauseated as a person than when someone who performs entertainment for a living is the polar opposite off air. It's like you sort of have to have the same life. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there's, when you're on air, there's a level of performance you have to do. And even in show business, you're going to have to be fake to a certain degree, but I'm not the kind of guy I'm always going to be who I am, So with that being said, I think, just in entertainment, you got to perform. You got to do what you got to do. And when it comes to social media and tweets and Facebook messages, here's the thing. I've been arrested. I've been, as a child, I was abused. I was punched. I had a brother who died. I've had a gun to my head. I've been robbed. I've been through a lot in my life. So when a guy jumps on a laptop and tweets me, yeah, it's not really going to hurt. I mean, you're on a laptop. That's not tough. How am I afraid of a guy tweeting me?
Yeah, you're a
with
pussy.
180 characters.
Yeah.
And going back to just radio in general, the Mike Calta show, I don't know if you know this, but I wrote for his roast. He had a roast a couple of years ago when he dropped the name Cowhead, and he had Jim Norton there, Jim Florentine. I think Artie Lang was there. I'm not sure of all the comedians they had, but I wrote for that roast, and a lot of my jokes were told. So I've always been a fan. And actually, before I wrote that roast, I listened to his show for 2 weeks, and I was like, this guy gets it. This guy's really cool. And if you talk to comedians within the industry, they all love Mike Calta, and that's why he gets great guests, and that's why a lot of comics always talk about his show being one of the best.
What I like about Mike's show is it's just a bunch of people just talking into the mic. There's no exploitation or teasing. Yeah, Mike will sort of make fun of you, but it's all in fun. Like, he's helped me so much off air. Like, it means the world to me. And he helps everyone around him. He gives comedians the time of day. Like, my point is, that's what I like about people who are humble is you have to remember that at the end of the day, you're meaningless. I'm meaningless. People in radio and comedy, we're the lowest when it comes to being celebrities. We're just known in a small basis in a city. Like, at the end of the day, we're not going to get recognized if we go to a different city. So you sort of need to be humble and not burn bridges. That's kind of what I've learned this year is you just have to be yourself, and that's when it comes off genuine. Like, Chad, when I first moved to town, I tried so hard to have people know who I am at the bone. Now they do. But first it was sort of goofy, and then I was trying too hard. But I'm really working on just embracing who I am. And to me, that's when the best entertainment comes out, is when you just act like yourself. You know what I mean?
Right. I think you're a young guy. You have a lot of motivation and ambition. And I think as you get older, you're going to learn a lot of things. So I think it's a combination of you being young and impressionable and just learning new things. I mean, not just radio, but just life lessons, which, you know, you're learning on your own, sometimes the hard way, but you're learning. So that's going to come to you, but no one's ever going to deny your passion. And I think that's going to help you move forward. And the fact that you're in that environment down at the Bone, I think it's a good place for you in radio right now. Like I said, going back to Mike Calta, he's a good radio guy. People like him. They respect him. He's not a phony. He doesn't have a fake radio voice. He respects comedians, and that's why comedians often talk about him publicly, is because of how good he is to comics. And that's a reflection of who he is, because I think comedy and radio goes hand in hand, and he's just not one of those hack radio guys or those Howard Stern ripoffs. He's his own personality. He's just a good guy. So you're in a great environment down there, and the fact that you're doing your podcast, you're still getting downloads and subscribers goes to show you that you have tenacity and you work at it, and I'll respect anybody for that. And if anybody puts you down or makes fun of you, it's sad because they're just it's almost like being a bully. And a lot of those people that do that to you, and I think you know who I'm talking about, they were bullied themselves, and they're just you know, instead of having some sort of empathy or compassion, they just decide to continue the cycle. So you're in Tampa, Florida. It's tons of girls, sunshine. It's a great place to be. Embrace it. Enjoy it. You're exactly where you need to be, and don't ever regret your decision.
Yeah, I am in Tampa Bay, and there are a lot of good-looking girls. But the thing is, Chad, and we've met before. We got a few beers. We've hung out. I'm not the most coordinated guy. I'm not the most sociable guy when it comes to being around girls. I was with that girl, and I had to have you be my wingman with the date I took out. So what do I need to...
remember that, but I take your word for it.
You were like working the game. You were with Jason Lawhead, I believe, and you were just like, you guys were trying... This was at Around the Corner, I believe. Around the Corner or Harry Buffalo, and I just remember... You had to be my wingman. So what do I need to do? I've had Joe Howard. He gave me a 90-minute podcast breaking down how I need to get laid. What do you do to get the job done where you reach the top of the mountain, Chad Zumock?
Just so Joe, he talked about how you need to get laid. That's hilarious. Embrace your awkwardness.
Right.
That's what makes. Just embrace it. I think that's hilarious. You know, you're a young guy. You're fine. And when you're on a radio show, you're going to be fine, especially in Florida. I performed in Ybor City at the Improv.
It's a nice place.
There's girls everywhere. I mean, it's a phenomenal place to be. You know, and I'm at a different stage of my life. I'm a little bit older now, so I've kind of been through it all. I'm not necessarily, like, I'm seeing somebody right now, so I'm not really out looking for girls. So you just got to be yourself and be confident in what you are and what you're doing, and just enjoy it, man. How old are you? 23?
22.
22? Jesus, I would kill to be 22. Just be yourself and enjoy it, man. You're a good kid, and of course you're awkward and silly, but that's your charm, and I think you should embrace that.
Now, how did you meet this new girl of yours that's in your life? Did you meet her on, let's say, the good old app known as Tinder? How did you meet this girl?
I met her on Craigslist. I'm just kidding. She's a girl I actually went to high school with. Yeah. It was actually kind of a cool situation. I was in Atlanta, and I was doing a show down there, and she came to the show, and it was just one of those weird situations. I had a huge crush on her in high school, and she was like kind of the girl every guy in high school wanted. And I don't know. We just kind of been keeping a nice relationship, and it's been fun, and and it's good to have somebody in your life because it makes you kind of want to just settle down and work hard and just focus on what's important. So I don't go out to the bars anymore. If I'm not doing a show, my life's pretty chill. Like I just watch Netflix that sounds totally lame, but I just kind of work on my stuff and what's important. And, that's where I'm at. I wish I was that crazy guy, but I'm not that guy anymore.
Would you say that this girl has changed you as a person and made you a better man, Chad Zumock?
I think age changes you. You just get older and you start embracing where you're at. And, I've done it all. I've seen it all. I've been drunk. I've hooked up with chicks. I've done everything you can. It's just you get to the point where you're just like, kind of want to move into a different part of life.
So have you ever had a threesome?
I mean, are you doing Stern or no? What is this? I mean, is this
I was just curious, dude. I asked Joe Howard that too.
Were you asking the same question?
Well, I mean, I just try to keep it as a laid-back show, If you're with your friend at the bar, they say, hey, did you get a threesome? I mean, it's something that gets brought up when you talk to people.
I've had a lot of fun. I've done pretty much everything a single guy's wanted to do, so I have no regrets.
It seems like this girl is making you hold back a little bit, Chad. Like you want to be humble, and just very quiet about it.
I want the power of the Hoppe podcast to get out there. I understand how your reach, and I mean, it's just I just don't want it to be on page 6 of the New York Post or on TMZ. I mean, this is big time stuff right now.
Or the front page of the plane dealer.
Yeah, no, I'm in a good spot. I've grown up a lot. It's just, you just start focusing on what you got to focus on, and trust me, I'm not. You do what you got to do, my friend. You're a 22-year-old kid. You drink, you party, you go make out with chicks. Do what you got to do, man. I've done it, and you're in radio. You're on a really badass station down there, and I think you should really just enjoy it while you can.
Should I name drop when I'm at the bar? Like when she says, so what do? Do you say I'm Ryan Hoppe from 102.5 The Bone? Like, how does that work? Is it douchey to name drop, or should you embrace it since it's all I have?
Yeah, I guess you just got to do what you got to do to survive, man. I mean, dating's changed a lot since I was younger. I mean, now you got Tinder, you got all these social media websites. Girls don't go on dates anymore, which is interesting. Like, I remember the last time I was out at the bar and I was single, I asked for a girl's number. She just told me, just follow me on Instagram. I go, what? Follow you? That's like the new way of going. And I asked her on a date, and she wanted to bring like 6 of her friends. So I don't even know how to do it. If I were to get back into the dating scene, like I'd have to start over. I don't even know where to begin. So.
But you're Chad Zumock. All you would have to do is just walk into the bar, and you're the fridge, and the girls are magnets. They just flock to you, dude, with your swag.
Yeah, man. No, I just, just have some fun, Ryan. You can. If you want to name drop and say you're on a radio station, go for it, brother. Why not? I'm sure I've done worse.
Yeah, man, I'm just trying to figure out who I want to be as a person, because I'm really learning to embrace who I am, because then people see you as a real person and not this act on air. So I'm just trying to figure out who I want to be on air and off air. And I think me trying to do this is showing that I'm trying to mature as a person and not just be this shock jock. Like when I first went into radio, my whole thing was saying that Kim Kardashian's a whore and saying people are douchebags. And now it's like, why even give them the time of day? You know, like you have to mature as a person because it's just hacky. You know what I mean?
I hate shock jock radio. I can't stand it. I think it's so played out, you know, and it's so bad.
Hey, let's put pubic hair on a face. That's creative.
Yeah. You told me that that's just not my thing. So I think the way entertainment's going, especially with podcasts emerging and other people getting their entertainment elsewhere, I think you just be yourself. You know, unfortunately in radio, you got a lot of guys who've worked themselves up to management positions, and a lot of them, I'm not saying all of them, a lot of them are very uncreative people. They don't know what it's like to be an artist or to be creative, and they just kind of suck the fun out of it. But at the same time, they have a job to do. They got to protect the license at all costs. So a lot of people aren't taking chances anymore. It's just not where radio's going. Radio's becoming very, very, very vanilla and very boring. And a lot of that is because they don't want lawsuits. They don't have to deal with all the nonsense that comes with it. So you can't really do a lot of crazy things. So you might as well embrace creativity. It doesn't necessarily have to be pubic hairs on a face or a fake radio name. Just figure out another way of going about doing it. I mean, there's so many ways that have not been tried, and you don't have to get crazy to do it. I don't know if that answers any question. I'm just talking randomly.
It does, man, because radio needs to have more creativity. That's why I'm so happy to be here in Tampa. Like Hot 101.5, 102.5 The Bone, all the different radio places in the hallway. It's just they're so creative, and Cox Media does a really good job. It's like radio has so much potential, dude, because talk radio like here at The Bone, people listen. A 54-year-old dude listens or a 25-year-old girl listens. I mean, there's so much potential when you have fun talk radio. You know what I mean?
I'm a podcast listener. I love podcasts, and there's a lot of them I subscribe to. And after being in the machine and radio, you kind of know all the tricks. But there are a few radio shows I still pipe in for. Obviously, if I was living in Tampa, I'd be listening to Mike Calta for sure. Opie and Jimmy over on Sirius XM. My good friend Jim Florentine's always on there. And I still listen to Howard Stern. I think Howard Stern's slowly evolving. Obviously, the reason why I got into radio was because of Artie Lang. Artie Lang was my idol. He's a comedian on the radio. That's what I always wanted to do. I got the chance to open for Artie, be on his TV show, and he's always been a really good guy. And, you know, we've talked about radio and where it's going and the name of the game and how it's evolving and changing, you know, whether it's for the better or for the worse. It's changing. But I also think, you know, the show that you're on is one of the few shows that's just not hacky, and it's a good station to be at. And but I'll always listen to podcasts. I think that's where my interest is when it comes to talk.
Now, who are some people like Jim Florentine who helped make Reckless Operation a CD that's doing real well?
Well, Jim Florentine's my big brother in comedy. I mean, he's been so good to me. We've gotten to be very, very, very close over the last couple of years, and it's not even just with comedy; it's just life. And so him and I have a really good bond, and we're just good friends. And I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that he's given me. And a lot of it had to do with when I got fired from radio in Cleveland on MMS. I had a short stint over on 87.7 that didn't really evolve into anything. But he just told me, get back into stand-up. Focus on stand-up because that will be the vehicle that drives you. And it is. And that's why I made this album. I took my time with it. I became more of a established voice. And I started noticing, like, headliners and my peers taking notice on what I was doing. They're like, damn, Zumock, that's some funny shit. And that's a good feeling when you got a guy who's been in the game for 20 years saying, that's really funny. Like, I did a show with Rich Voss recently, and, you know, I don't know Voss very well, but he was just like, you know, he goes, I thought you were going to be some hack up there, and, you know, and just, you know, doing local references, and you're really funny, man. You were talking about some dark stuff and owning the crowd. So that made me feel good. So I wanted to just do my album. If you could see the cover of my album is my mug shot, which A lot of people say that was genius. It took balls to do that because I was charged with a DUI. I never got a DUI. I got a reckless operation because there's a lot to the story. As a lot of people that might be listening in Cleveland, there's a couple radio people that took plea bargains from a charge. I'll just leave it at that. I think you know what I'm talking about. So I took the plea bargain, and instead of letting it hurt my life, but it's a situation of, life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And I just embraced it. That mugshot's been clicked on 1.5 million times. That's
How is that possible?
Thing I've ever done. It went viral, man. It was a huge story in Cleveland. I don't know why. It just, for some reason, that was on every single news station. And a couple years back, Bernie Kosar got charged with the DUI. Bernie Kosar, one of the most popular quarterbacks ever in the history of Cleveland in the Cleveland Browns organization. And we talked about it. He said my mugshot got more coverage than his. And it's Bernie Kosar, number 19. So I don't know what it was. It was the slowest news day in Cleveland. But the sad part is it's the most successful thing I've ever done. So I'm embracing it. It's now the cover of my CD, Reckless Operation, which you can get on iTunes.
Now, speaking of good old Bernie Kosar, what do you think of the chance when he was on 92.3 The Fan and he was talking about maybe wanting to help out the Browns in any sort of role? Do you think that would make any impact? Because at this point, having my cat be the coach would be better, dude. I mean, with that blocked field goal, dude, that play represents the Browns of the last 15 years, especially to lose to the Ravens.
I mean, it was – here's the thing. I don't even get emotional about these Browns losses anymore. I used to get upset and angry. It would ruin my Monday. But at this point, I'm almost in awe. I'm in awe of how they lose. It's almost – a work of art. They are the very best at losing. Nobody can beat them when it comes to losing. It's it's unbelievable how they can do it, and they manage to top themselves each and every week. It's sad. It's a sad state of affairs, this organization. I know you have to have consistency to move forward, and you have to establish environment, but unfortunately this is a very toxic environment, and you can't have consistency with this staff from the front office down to the players. You got to start over. You got to scrap it. You got to throw everything out the window. You need a new GM. You need a new coach. I'm sure Patton was a good guy, but he lost this organization. Bad draft pick after bad draft pick. Johnny Manziel, an organization like the Browns who haven't been relevant since, the 90s. You can't take a chance on a quarterback like Johnny Manziel. If you're the Patriots, you can. But a team that's trying to establish something, you can't do that. And there's so many problems when TMZ is your biggest news outlet for your football team. That's a red flag right there. So when we had that block kicked, I was just like, you know what? Just embrace the losing. Just embrace it. So hopefully they'll just clean house and start over.
What is it about just Cleveland overall, dude? I mean, there's just this vibe. It's a great town. I loved every second of being in the town. But is it because of the weather or the sports teams losing? But there's just this vibe of like eeriness in that city. You know what I mean?
Well, it's my home. I'm always going to be prideful being from here. I lived in Los Angeles for 2 years. I always would go to Lakers games, wearing Cavs stuff. I'll always represent. And I think there's some good people that live here. They're hardworking. It's a blue-collar town. Obviously, it was a punchline for a long, long time. When your river catches on fire, that's people are going to talk about it. And then you got the losing sports teams. But there's also been a surge in businesses. There's a lot of eateries, breweries. There's a lot going on in the city. It's changing. It's evolving. And it does get a bad rap. And, my good buddy Mike Polk, who did the Cleveland tourism video and the Factory of Sadness, that doesn't really help the PR. But it's almost like these are our teams. We're in it together. And it almost brings you together whether you win or lose. And when we do win, it's going to make it all the more sweeter. And I think the only people in the world that can really understand what we're going through is possibly Chicago Cubs fans.
Yeah, man, I just feel bad for the town. Like, you guys are so passionate about the teams, but you guys just can't catch a break. I mean, it seems like the Cavs are your only hope.
Yeah, that's our Obi-Wan Kenobi right there. I think the Cavs are our best bet. When you got the best player in the world, that does give you hope. And I think, if the Cavs do win the championship, the tides will turn. I remember when, the Red Sox, they won. It was almost, even though they had the Celtics and the Patriots, the tides turn, and winning's contagious, and hopefully that will just kind of trickle on down the line to all the franchises. But until then, it's a good town. There's some good people here, and like I said, they still embrace talk radio, which is I go on a lot of interviews. I talk to a lot of people, and there's not a lot of jobs out there, especially in this day and age in radio. So, it's a loyal town.
Now, before I let you go, where do you want to see yourself in 5 years since you have Reckless Operation out now? What do you want to do after this? So where do you want to be in 5 years?
Man, hopefully one day be the co-host of the Hoppe Hour. That was always the plan when I was a child.
Even before I was born, you were just like, there's going to be this kid named Ryan Hoppe who's 6'8", awkward, but has a podcast that wins an award in Tampa, and I want to be the co-host of it. That is my goal.
Say what you want, man. I see on Facebook, you book a lot of guests, man. You get a lot of personalities, a lot of names, so you're doing a great job, man. There's nothing – you got, Bob from, who's retiring from Bob and Tony. You had him on. You had a lot of great names, and you should be proud of that. A 22-year-old kid just, really making it happen. You should be happy. I mean, you said you won Best Podcast?
Yeah, down here in Tampa.
Good. That's awesome, man. You embrace that. That's something to hang your hat on. As far as me, I want to continue to evolve as a stand-up. I got a couple cool things, working right now. Jim and I are working on a couple projects. I got a lot of friends in the industry. There's a huge name in comedy that I've pitched something to. I don't want to jinx it or screw it up, but no, I'm working on projects. Radio is, I like radio, and if there was a cool opportunity to do radio somewhere, I would do it again. But if I don't, I'm completely cool with it because I can do other things. I like writing. I like, making videos. I like screenplays. I like doing all kinds of stuff. So believe it or not, this is a true story. This is crazy. I just got casted in the new Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I believe it's called 478. I got a small role. I have 2 lines. So maybe I'll be a Academy Award winner in 5 years. Who knows?
That would be crazy if you were to be like the next big actor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure at 40 years old, it's they're just knocking down my door. I'm going to be the next Brad Pitt here. It's even if I could just be the wacky neighbor in a sitcom, I think I'd be happy.
Yeah, I could imagine you having your own show just about living in Cleveland. Like, everyone loves Chad, and you have the awful laugh track in the background, and there's all the awful puns as you walk into, like, the living room. There's Chad! Cue the laugh track. I could imagine you being in some sitcom on, like, CBS.
I'll tell you what, Ryan, this is my plan now. How about you get famous in 5 years, and you produce this sitcom, and that's how I'll make my living. How about that?
That sounds like a plan, dude. You've always had my back. I always enjoyed talking on Facebook, man. Chad Zumock, keep doing what you're doing, dude. You're awesome.
You keep doing what you're doing, and don't let a couple 40-year-old radio people keep you down.
I don't live in the past, dude. You can't with the life we're given. You have to kind of move on and at some point appreciate what you're doing and to be the better person. So,
no, I just think it's crappy and it's sad. And, I hear things because even though I've been off the air for a while, people still come to my shows and tell me stuff. And it just, if they're still using you for content on the show, it's a testament of what you brought. And I hope it never puts you in a bad mood or
it used to. I will be honest. It used to put me in a bad mood. But then you think about it and you go, it's free PR. You look at your listens for that day. Everyone in that town of Cleveland's listening. So, like, I don't mind being brought up because then they search on Google, where is Ryan Hoppe? Because I see what they search to find my website. I mean, thank you for coming on Hoppe Hour. It's always a blast, Chad Zumock.
I appreciate it, Ryan. You're a good guy. Keep doing what you're doing and keep your head up, and hopefully one day I'll work for you. How about that?
Sounds good, man. Peace out. And that was my guy, Chad Zumock, who's always been very good to me. And you can check out his work by going to iTunes and searching up Reckless Operation and make sure you buy it. Support comedy and support some of the best talent out there by going to iTunes and searching it up, or go to chadzumock.com or @ChadZumock. If you want to hear more of Hoppe Hour, it's not hard. It's not rocket scientist. It doesn't take a genius. All you have to do is download my app, go to the Google Play or iTunes shop, search up Hoppe Radio, and you can listen anywhere in the world. Louisville, Cleveland, Tampa, Chicago, Auckland, New Zealand. You can listen anywhere in the world. Go to hopperadio.com, @RyanHoppeRadio. On Twitter, Ryan@hopperadio.com. Send me an email. Speaking of it, this has been Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, saying peace out.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.
This is an official broadcast of Hoppe Radio. For more info, check out hopperadio.com and hoppesworld.com.